Welcome back to News at Prime. Let's give you the wrap of the business day. Now, former finance minister and the current chairman of the board of Old Mutual, Trevor Manuel, says structural economic challenges in South Africa and the rest of the continent not only slow development, but also compound the risk to growth. He was speaking to business reporter Ntokozo Khumalo on the sidelines of the Southern Africa CEO Dialogue in Johannesburg.
The Southern Africa-Europe CEOs dialogue took place at Melrose Arc in Johannesburg, with business leaders really digging into some of the challenges to trade and business on the continent. And I am now joined by Old Mutual's chair, and that's Trevor Manuel. Thank you so much for talking to us. Now, you did highlight some issues that the continent needs to tackle if we are to see some of that growth come back and, us making use of the youthful population that we do have. Could you just highlight some of those issues you mentioned?
Thank you. As Africans all, I think we have the first responsibility for the recovery of what's happening on the African continent. We know that there's a big problem with commitments made by rich countries not met. This has arisen in respect of the United Nations commitment to secure 0.7% of GDP of countries to help with development. It isn't happening, and there's a massive build-up of debt. We've seen it also with the ease with which wealthy countries have made commitments to the just transition from coal-fired power to renewables. It's not happening. And so I think we must look to ourselves and ask how Africa will recover, because what happens on the African continent has to be measured in the lives of Africa's poorest. Every year during the summer months, a few hundred young, competent Africans drown in the Mediterranean trying to get off the continent, and sometimes, in spite of their background and education, are prepared to undertake menial work in Europe because there's no work on the African continent. It's a reflection on our failures. And so it's very important to read that together with enormous infrastructure challenges. Here in South Africa, the economic heartland in Gauteng, for instance, is landlocked. We need access to ports and rail. We can't continue to put heavy trucks on roads and hope that there'll be a different outcome. Similarly, the speed with which we can get digital access to the majority of South Africans in townships becomes an important issue. And of course, the ongoing challenge of Eskom failures. These will continue to retard the development of South African and therefore African prosperity. For as long as that happens, we can't create jobs, we can't create markets. Wealthy people find ways out, but poor people remain trapped in townships. It's a big responsibility we have to take on.
Is business that just fast-tracking, their role that they play to ensure that whatever discussions do take place, such as this, they do trickle down to, small businesses and businesses in the township?
We have a great opportunity in South Africa, for instance, where business has stepped up to the plate. We saw it during COVID with the establishment of the Solidarity Fund. Business for South Africa is an incredibly strong, motivated and dynamic organization. It partners with government in a range of areas, and more recently the establishment of crisis committees. If you look at the work done by B4SA on the restructuring and development plan, it isn't being fully taken up by government. It's a tragedy. I think that citizens are not going to give government a second or third chance. The key issue is to improve on the quality of life of people. That's a commitment in our constitution, and it's a commitment that we have to see borne out, and I think we must call on government to move beyond the platitudes and get into the substance, because this is the real transformation challenge.
Mr. Manuel, thank you so much for those insights. A lot to mull over there, but that is Mr. Trevor Manuel, who is the chairman with Old Mutual, just highlighting some of the issues that still need to be worked on to ensure that such dialogue, such as the CEO dialogue, actually does trickle down into action that benefits the majority of Africans, and more specifically here in South Africa. For Newzroom Afrika, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo at Melrose Arch in Johannesburg.